So, Mark, did you see that meme highlighting the problem that every traveler faces and one you're facing today? Going somewhere,
Yeah.
traveling, thinking you're going to be healthy, and then eating all the crap.
Yeah, I mean, this is like perfect for me. Went to the doctor, high cholesterol, a little bit, high blood pressure. So I've been last couple of weeks been really focusing on eating right, and then I go to Vegas, and you make me eat 8 pizzas in a day, and my stomach felt like trash the next day. I doubled down and ate some more stuff I probably shouldn't have. So hits home.
But it was all worth it, right?
Yeah.
So good news coming out of Florida, the Evermore Resort, that's where that Conrad is that we talked about on the shows and that you stayed at just a few weeks ago. The Evermore Resort is the resort that's part of, and that's going to become part of Hilton as well, the Curio collection. We don't know how many points, right, yet, but yeah, this is good news. So another option for getting on that beautiful lagoon.
Yeah, this is interesting because all of those are like condos, flats, houses, villas. Each place has like a private pool in the backyard. Like the houses have your own little private pool in the backyard. So you can walk out to the lagoon or you can go in your private little area. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know how they're going to price this. Are they going to have any standard rooms? Are they going to like maybe the flats will have a standard room that you could use a free night stay, or maybe it's just all going to be super expensive, but it will be interesting because, sometimes a house works a lot better than getting 3 or 4 hotel rooms for a big family gathering. So I'm curious to see if there's any value to be had. I think this will be really popular.
It's funny, over the years, there's these bucket list places that everybody in the miles and point space, they want to go to. And a lot of times they're in other countries or, the Maldives, I guess, is like a huge example of that. But there's also like properties that people aspire to. And I feel like this is becoming one of those. And it's also much easier to go to because it's in Orlando and not halfway across the world. And I just talked to so many people who want to experience that lagoon, and I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, it's such a unique thing, like that you don't see anywhere, and the fact that it's just a pool is kind of crazy. It doesn't look like that. It doesn't feel like that. Waldorf Astoria and Cabo is another one that everybody tries to get to. Of course, Big Sur, Ventana is another one. So I think Ventana and then this are like the two really standout properties in the U.S. that everybody's kind of clamoring to get to still. It's kind of interesting to see, and this is probably the Hilton one in the U.S. that everybody's been focusing on now.
So on to Allegiant, my hometown airline, Las Vegas's hometown airline. They just announced a huge expansion, none of which has to do with Las Vegas, but they're adding 44 new nonstop routes and 3 new airports. And you're probably wondering, like, 44 new nonstop routes. The reason for that is because Allegiant doesn't fly most of these routes every day. A lot of the routes they'll fly once a week, sometimes twice a week. So that's really your gamble when you're flying Allegiant, is it has to work with your schedule. Plus, if they miss your flight or something happens to the plane, you may be waiting days. So yeah, lots of new cities for Allegiant flyers. And this is a option people should look at. It's a good airline that every time I've flown them, it's been fine. And oftentimes they fly into smaller airports. So if you have that need, it can be really great.
Yeah, I think that's what makes them a bit unique. My parents fly them sometimes from Punta Gorda up to Flint. They don't fly into Detroit. They don't fly out of Sarasota or Fort Myers. It's just like Punta Gorda, this tiny little airport, but they like that one best, easy to get to and everything. So they'll do that, fly up to Flint. It's a little bit more of a drive for us to get them, but it works for them. But that's what, like, I'm going through this list. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like Colorado Springs, most of the time you're connecting through Denver, but this is a direct flight. And then Sarasota, they added it there. So it's all these like airports that don't get a lot of love. I think Grand Rapids made the list too. So it adds a little bit more for people that live near a regional airport. That's not one of the big ones. Maybe it will save you some drive going like 2 hours to the nearest large airport. So I think that's kind of cool.
And I'll say it again, every airline will strand you, every airline will screw you. So do what's best for you. Just have all the knowledge, do your best to do it. And Allegiant certainly works within my plans, and good to see them doing well, especially in the wake of the Spirit bankruptcy and all of the unknowns that we have with low-cost carriers.
Yeah, I think, use a credit card that has some protections built in, so you're not paying out the butt if something does go wrong. But also, like, Spirit and Frontier focus on the big markets more so. And I think that's what's cool about this. And like Breeze and the other airlines, the low-cost carriers, focus on the smaller markets, which wouldn't be served basically at all without it.
So on to some credit card news, and there is a new Alaska 75,000 mile offer. We talked on previous shows that some people were getting 80,000 and 100,000 targeted offers. I think those are still out there, but this is a public offer for Alaska card, 75,000 miles after 3,000 in spend in the first 90 days. The $95 annual fee is not waived. You also get that $99 companion fare as well. So if you weren't targeted for the 80K, 100K, this could be a good way to get a nice chunk of Alaska miles. That's enough for business class to Japan one way.
Yeah, I think it's a really good offer. Right there at the best we've seen publicly available. This one is like when you click through, it asks for employee info and stuff. So I think it's meant for like employees to hand out to friends and all of that type of thing. But it seems to work without filling out any of that or putting like a zero or whatever you want in those little things. They don't have like the asterisk next to it that says must fill out this thing. So I don't think you actually have to. People have been successful just filling it out, skipping that part, applying, getting approved. So it will add to your 524. So if you're under and you're focusing on that, maybe still stick to the business card or the Hawaiian business card. But if you're over or going over, this is a great option.
So next up is the Avianca LifeMiles Elite card, and it has an interesting bonus, a big offer, but probably not a card I'm going to pursue. 80,000 miles upon spending 4,500 in the first 90 days. Then you can get another 40,000 if you spend 25,000 in the first year. So they want you to kind of use it and keep it for a year. Doesn't have the best categories, 2x dining, 2x travel. So it's okay, but Avianca is a transfer partner of so many other currencies that you may want to earn in those programs. And it's also issued by Cardless, right? Which has some funky rules.
Yeah, I think this is interesting if you use Life Miles quite a bit because I think the card is useful with the 10% back that you get on Star Alliance bookings using Life Miles, 25% back on actual Avianca bookings. So that could add up, pretty decently, offset the fee each year. And then it is issued by Cardless, which is a niche issuer, and they have the worst rule in the business. You can only get one Cardless card, not at one time, not like once for that card, but one Cardless card for the entire life, like your entire history. So I signed up early before we even knew what this was. I signed up for the New Orleans Pelicans card because it was 4% back at gas stations, which I probably still would pick that card over all of them because of the way I spend. So it was useful, but now I can't get any other card ever. My wife also opened one of those and they closed it for inactivity without alerting us. And now she can't even get that one back open or open another one. It's really terrible. I'm surprised they're allowed to do it with their partners, because don't you think Avianca would want me getting their card and spending on it and all of this, and they're blocking me from it?
It's super strange. I remember when Cardless launched, what was it, 6, 7, 8 years? I don't know. It's a while ago, maybe 5 years ago. And they had this rule, but you would have thought they would have evolved past it because at some point you're blocking all your customers out. If somebody got a card 5 years ago, why would you not want them to get a different card today? Doesn't make a ton of sense. And it's certainly not the way any of the other banks work, but maybe it's working for them. I don't know. But yeah, your example is a perfect one. You're now locked out forever from any of their cards. And it doesn't even matter if you're a current customer or not. I don't know how that makes business sense.
Yeah, and like this card was not available when they made this rule, so we didn't know what they would add in the future or not add. And no, you can just sit there on the sidelines, always waiting. Well, what if something better comes out? At some point, you just got to take the jump. But it's a terrible rule, and all those cards that we all signed up for early on aren't even available anymore. They got rid of them because they were too generous, and sometimes like 8 times on rideshare, on game day, like all these weird things, which was kind of interesting at the time, but obviously it was too good to be true. And then they shut those down. You're grandfathered in, but I can't get anything going forward. It's a terrible rule.
So let's talk about a bank that everybody has an account with, or I would assume most everybody. Sorry to the people who have been shut down, but Chase is cracking down. There's anecdotal reports that Chase is a lot tougher on approvals lately, especially on business cards, but even on personal cards. And then there was a number of data points saying people would call for reconsideration, and Chase was saying they weren't reconsidering or people were getting denied. But good news is the old tried and true strategy, hang up, call again, hookah, it's working for some people. Some people have had to call back several times, but they're able to get reconsideration. So I guess it's a your mileage may vary situation.
Yeah, we definitely notice it in the top Facebook group. The amount of declines is up compared to even 6 months ago or earlier this year. So there's a shift there for sure. This is the first I've ever heard of a bank, going from being really good about reconsideration to just being like, no, you can't get it. And it is weird that you'll get that from one agent, call back, not get the same story, and even get approved from another agent, while others are calling back 2, 3, 4 times and being told the same thing each time, that they're not eligible for reconsideration. So I don't know if this is like bumpily rolling out, or if they give more autonomy to the agents and if they've seen it before. I think some of it is like, oh, somebody already said you're not eligible, so I'm just going to stick with that and not have to go through all these hoops. But it's kind of crazy. I mean, I remember before the 524 days, you would just call and be like, "Hey, I have this other Chase card. You can take 5,000 from that and open this one." They're like, "Sure, done." What a change.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shifting landscape. I think you mentioned in your article on top that, the economic situation's a little bit weird, even though it seems like the economy's good, the stock market's doing well. Banks may be tightening a little bit as they worry, as default rates have gone up on credit cards and debt levels are at all-time highs. And we've seen this before where they get more conservative. So maybe not a huge change other than they're just looking at things a little more carefully. I do hope that they keep the reconsideration process. I think it's good business. Like Cardless limiting people to one per lifetime is bad business. Reconsideration is good business because sometimes computers fail and you want somebody to manually look at it. And a lot of us are good customers to Chase, even if we try to be strategic and earn the most. I mean, we have a lot of cards and we're good customers. So, you always want to get that person on the phone to take a look at everything.
Yeah, and it's always blown my mind that you could call, you hear reports of people calling into reconsideration 3, 4, 5 times and getting approved on like the third, fourth, or fifth. Like, what has changed that the first two people said no, and then the third, is it just a different person that's more willing? I mean, I would think that the system is the system and they should be able to look at it, but I guess they get a little bit of autonomy, a little bit of personal decision in there. But it's just funny that that they see that you've called 3 times already, and they're like, you know what? They were right for calling a 4th time. Let's give it to them.
Reconsideration with Chase was so fun before 524 because you could apply for a lot of cards in a short period of time. So you'd be, 2 weeks ago, you got the United card and now you're applying for something else, the IHG card. And you're, well, we saw you just got this. Why do you want? Oh, well, I need to, I have some. And so you would always have to do, and you have so many cards with them. And it was always fun, but they were so great back in the day. 524 made it not as good, but they've always had a great reconsideration. And I hope they keep that up. Hilton has also been great with timeshare presentations. You've covered these over the years. You've gone to them. I think we've seen up to 150,000 points offered for these, but right now they have an offer, 75,000 points for going to a timeshare presentation, and you pay $250 to $300, Orlando, Vegas, Myrtle Beach. So you're basically buying a package, agreeing to go to the thing. You're going to get the nights in the hotel plus 75,000 points. Pretty good. Not the best we've ever seen, but as you've said many times, people should do this.
Yeah, I think, the 150K was shortly out of the pandemic and everything. I don't know that we'll get back to that point. Maybe see 100K here and there. But 75K is really solid. Basically, the points more than offset the cost of the room. And then you have to look at, New York City, some weekends it's going to be like $1,000 for 3 nights, even at like a mid-tier hotel that you're going to get put up on this offer, so you save a ton there too. So if it's a place you were going to go anyway, I think it's really worth doing. If it's a place that you're going just for the points and maybe like, oh, I'll get a free vacation out of it, maybe less exciting, but I would definitely call. And we always say, ask for more, see if there's, something else they can do, maybe give you a gift card, maybe more points, maybe a 2-bedroom place. There's always options. Maybe they open it up to more, hey, do you have any other cities that are available? I don't want to go to these 4 and stuff. And usually they can come up with something a little bit more. So don't take it at first blush, call in and just play like, oh, I don't know if this is great. I would prefer this, and see what they say.
And use Mark's trick when you're at the presentation. Just tell them you're a travel blogger, that you're just writing about it. They'll let you out immediately. You don't even have
15 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah. It was awesome.
So one of the crazy things, and you see these stories come up from time to time, is unclaimed property. Every state has it. So let's say bank accounts can get closed that you forget about, and the property gets sent to the state. Gift cards that you bought, which is an example you use in your article. This is why you recently did it for unclaimed property. So there's a million different ways that, overpayment of utility bills. That's one that I've had in the past. And so there's a million ways you can do this. And every state has a different sort of form and website to go about claiming your unclaimed property and searching for it. But you absolutely should. I have several things that I'm in the process of doing in Nevada. Nevada, you have to do a notarized statement. There's a bunch of weird stuff, but make sure to search. And if you have the money, go get it. I mean, it's yours.
Yeah, some states you just have to fill out a couple things and send it in, and then they mail you a check or whatever. So that stinks that you have to notarize things and everything. But each state's a little bit different. The article has links to each state, or you could just Google it, like, Nevada. Which way should I say it?
Excuse me.
Did we talk about that?
The show's over. The show's over. I quit.
Yeah, we talked about that on a Vegas episode. But no, like, you could just Google Michigan unclaimed property, and it will be one of the first things that come up. So you can do it that way. Definitely check for your. I always check for my parents and other family members. I send it to them because I always find something, and then they never do it. But at least I feel good about trying to help them get some money, a couple $100 here and there. But yeah, there's all these random things. One person in the top Facebook group's like, "Oh, I quit a job when I was young, and I left before getting my last paycheck because I hated it so much," and that was in there. So it's crazy what you'll find.
Yeah, it's like discovering free money or something like that. It's always
Yeah.
nice when you can do that. And I'm glad to hear that some states make it easier than Nevada because basically I've done it and then I get the forms and then I keep forgetting. Yeah. Oh God, stop. So you can now earn Bilt points for buying a house. They have this new partnership with EXP agents. So they're basically, you're agreeing to use this set of agencies. I'm sure Bilt is getting a kickback or whatever. But what you can do is earn one Bilt point for every $2 of the purchase price. So a $400,000 purchase price is going to earn you 200,000 Bilt points. Very valuable. So this is certainly something to look at. The whole real estate space has changed so much over the last 6 months because of the lawsuit and now the National Association of Realtors and their supposed monopoly having to open everything up and the commissions and everything for realtors. So all I would say is when you're hiring a realtor, do a lot of research on what the current processes are, what you should be paying and not paying. I don't know what fees they charge, but if you can always get a kicker and still, come out ahead as far as not paying more to use these realtors, then that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think a lot will depend on like the house you buy and what the seller's willing to do. And like that's what it's so confusing. It used to be cut and paste, like, hey, we know as the buyer, I'm not gonna have to pay a fee to the realtor. And now you might not, you don't know. So it's kind of crazy in that way. But the process, you do have to go through the Bilt app and then you have to pick one of the houses in their search and then it will link you up. So that's how you get the initial meeting. In their search, hopefully they end up adding more houses. It just rolled out, so I would imagine so. But right now, if you look at Zillow and you look at the Bilt app, it's, not as many houses are listed. But hopefully one matches up with one you want to look at anyway. You do that, you meet the agent. After that, you can look at any house with that agent and you will get the money. I'm guessing Bilt, the main kickback it gets is them buying the Bilt points from them and providing it. So they're giving these agents a warm lead. Bilt is selling the points. Win-win to a bit. The one concern people brought up was, are these going to be low-end agents, maybe new agents? Because if you're a seasoned agent that has a lot of referrals, you're not going to want to pay out for the Bilt points out of your commission. So something to consider. But a new agent could be better than, there's a lot of really terrible old agents out there. So I wouldn't focus on that too much.
And there's a lot of teams. So there are a lot of really successful agents that buy leads and that would do this, but they have teams of agents. So they're not going to be working with you personally. They're going to have one of their agents who might be newer. I mean, it's worth trying. And again, if you don't buy the house, you're not paying anything for this. Certainly, I don't know, again, because of the way the things have changed with realtors, you do have to go into an agreement up front. Sometimes you have to agree to pay them. So it's very different than it used to be where the seller paid the commission to the buyer's agent when buying a house previously. So just keep that in mind. Things have changed, but this is always good. And part of their tool is that they show estimated monthly costs, including all your taxes, fees, everything. So they're trying to help renters transition into home ownership, see what their budget should be. So it's cool in that way. And nice to see Bilt kind of expanding out. Now we just need, points on mortgage payments, right?
Yeah, that's what we all were waiting on. Like, I want that as a mortgage holder. Let's get there and do that. I mean, this is kind of nice. It's meant for the renters. If you're selling a house, there's no promo for you to do that as a listing agent. And that's basically because most of the Bilt users are renters, and this is to transition them into buying a home. And I think that's why they did it, because when you're paying rent, all you care about is the monthly rent.
And now for some cool mountain coasters, or some people call them Alpine coasters. Mark called it a hill coaster on the rundown. I've never heard it called that, but these are in like ski slopes
Going down a hill
over the world. They're really cool. They're in ski slopes all over the world, in mountain areas. I've done several of them. Park City was my favorite, I think, that I've done, but there's some crazy ones. And as the years have gone by, there's more and more of them. Which one stood out to you that you stumbled across?
Yeah, I think the one that's like in the grassy area where you have the mountains in the background, it's not as, Switzerland's really well known for these, and they have bendy ones and all of that. And some in Switzerland are more downhill where you get a view of the mountains. I want like a good view. I don't care about the actual ride back and forth. I just want to kind of like coast and take in the scenery. But there's definitely something to be worried about here. Like in the US, we have certain regulations and all that. I feel safer there. But when you go into a country, like let's say you're just in the middle of nowhere, do you trust it as much?
Yeah, I mean, they're fine. It's just a steal. You're in a
till you
cart
die.
You're basically in a cart on a track, and you control the braking. So you can. I always
Some
do it
don't
where
have brakes though.
Well, but I've always do it where I don't ever really use the brake, so I
Yeah.
just go with maximum speed. That's safe. They're designed so you can go the maximum speed without ever braking. But people get scared because you're going through twists and turns. A lot of times you're in mountains. There's a ton of these in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg near Smoky Mountain National Park. They're all over the place. And what's really cool is roller coaster database, rcdb.com. They actually list these. So they list all the roller coasters in the world, but they count these. So you could just search for a place you're going and see if there are any of these mountain coasters, and they are so much fun. Kids love them. Never heard of an accident on one, Mark, so I don't know what this whole safety issue is. There's even one at the Great Wall of China. That's the first one I ever rode, was at the Great Wall of China. You can get down on one of these.
Have you never heard of Action Park?
They didn't have one of these. Come on.
It wasn't a
Those are-
coaster, but it was like you sat in a thing and went down a hill. It just didn't have a rail. But that's just the freaky thing that was even possible. And this is like the 90s. We're not talking about like the 50s. And somebody did fall off. They didn't remove boulders, tumbled bang right into a boulder or rocks. So definitely like take a look, make your decision. But it looks like a plastic cart with a seatbelt. Like it does not seem super safe. Some of them.
But it has an assembly. It's got upstop wheels. It's attached to the track. It's not flying off
Way
the
better.
track. And you're not flying off of it. Hopefully. Have you ever done one of these? Let us know in the comments. These are a lot of fun. People should seek them out. Let us know what you think about anything else we talked about today. Cardless, their crazy rule, Chase Reconsideration, everything else we discussed. We do 2 shows a week. We do this show on Wednesdays with the news, and Mondays we have our podcast with all of our travels and behind the scenes, what we're doing in Miles and Points, all on this channel. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.